What's up, Green Bay Packers fans? Welcome back, and as always, thank you for joining me. My name is Paul Brettel. We made it. It's week one of the regular season. Packers at the Chicago Bears. So, of course, that's what we are here to discuss. Over the last few days, I've had several articles out over at Packers Wire previewing this matchup. And so that's what we're going to talk about, some of the big topics, key things to watch for as Sunday's game unfolds. But first, and as always, hit like on the video, hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. I do greatly appreciate it. You can follow me over on Twitter at Paul_Brettel, and you can find all my work over at Packers Wire. So let's dive in. Some of the big topics, big things to watch for during Sunday's game. Let's start with the injury report. Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson are both on it. I'm recording this Thursday evening. So as of this moment, Christian Watson did not practice on Wednesday or Thursday with a hamstring injury. That injury popped up over the last few days. We asked Matt LaFleur about that on Wednesday. He didn't give any specifics in terms of when it happened. Romeo Doubs, he missed Wednesday's practice, was a limited participant during Thursday's practice, and I think the real test in terms of if he's going to be good to go or not on Sunday is going to be whether he's practicing or not Friday. Even if it's in a limited capacity, but he's out on the practice field, that shows that he did not have any setbacks, and obviously he'll have to continue progressing between Friday and Sunday to be available. But if Doubs is out on the practice field Friday, I think that would be a very, very good sign. Again, when we asked Matt LaFleur just in general about these injuries, he gave the answer that he always gives when talking about injuries. The guys are going to have through the week up until game time to see how they're feeling before the Packers determine if they're going to play or not. So again, if Doubs is out there on Friday, I will feel a lot better about his availability on Sunday. With Watson, however, I'm not as optimistic because of just the timeline of it. He has a much shorter runway to get prepared with an injury that we know lingers, takes time to work through. Doubs' hamstring injury popped up prior to the Seattle game, so it's been about 11 or 12 days or so for him not being on the practice field before he was back out there on Thursday. Obviously, Christian Watson, with when his injury popped up, just didn't have that runway. So with Watson, I'm much less optimistic, but again, we'll have to see how the next few days unfold. Without those two, especially, or even without one of them, obviously that leaves a big hole in the passing game. Christian Watson, speed, big playability, and that's not only as a vertical presence, but as we've seen this summer and Matt LaFleur's talked about, he's going to be asked to run a lot more routes, have a greater impact at all levels of the field, and we've seen that. Romeo Doubs, as Matt LaFleur said, he has the ability to run any route that there is. He doesn't have the Christian Watson speed or Jayden Reed speed, but he's still quick and he knows how to create separation with that route running ability. And again, he can win in the short, intermediate, and the deep routes as well. And there's obviously the big play ability, Jordan Love leaning on those guys heavily, that aspect of it, but even their presence on the field, it's going to create opportunities for others with the spacing that they create through the attention that they draw from the opposing defense. So goes without saying, not having either of those guys would be a massive loss for this passing game that already is very, very inexperienced. Samori Toure with 110-ish or so career snaps would be the most experienced receiver. I'm guessing it would be Jayden Reed in the slot, and then Malik Heath would probably be starting next to Romeo Doubs if Doubs is out there on Sunday, with Samori Toure coming off the bench would be my guess, just because based on what we saw during the matchup with Seattle in the final preseason game. Dontavian Wicks was a full participant, so at least some added depth in the receiver room, but of course it doesn't necessarily help from the experience standpoint, and he's missed his fair amount of time this summer as well, dealing with injuries of his own. So how do the Packers overcome the absence of one or even both of those players? I think a lot of it, of course, is the run game, which I'm going to get to here more in a second, but it's Aaron Jones in the passing game. We've seen that be the formula in years past when the Packers have been shorthanded at the receiver position. There was the Dallas game in 2019. Aaron Jones led the team in receptions with 7, had, I believe, 75 receiving yards. That same season, Davante Adams was out against Kansas City. Aaron Jones had a massive performance. 7 receptions, again led the team, 159 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. And then 2021 against Arizona, when the receiver room was depleted as well. Aaron Jones, once again, 7 receptions, seems to be the magic number, led the team, had, I believe it was 59 receiving yards in that game. And also noteworthy, the Packers are 3-0 in all of those games. So whether it's, of course, this is going to be the case if both Watson and Dobbs are out. But even if it's just one of them, look for Aaron Jones to take on a much larger role in the passing game. And that doesn't necessarily mean just catching passes out of the backfield. About 25% of his snaps in 2022 came from either the slot or lined up out wide. He had the second most targets among running backs, 10 or more yards downfield, had the fourth most receiving yards among running backs on passes of 10 or more yards downfield. So the Packers haven't used him in that capacity a ton. A lot of his receptions do come around the line of scrimmage, but he does have the ability to affect the game in that capacity. So shorthanded at receiver, look for Aaron Jones in the passing game. Jordan Love, it's his first start, not his first start, but his first start as the starter, as the guy on this Green Bay Packers team. So, of course, we're going to be curious how he handles things, how he looks, coming off of what was a very solid summer. The Bears, Matt LaFleur talked about, from a statistical standpoint, this wasn't a defense numbers-wise that leaped off the page last season. In fact, by many metrics, they were one of the worst units in football. But Matt LaFleur said they play really hard and they do a really good job of generating pressure with stunts, blitzes, post-snap movement to create chaos, cause confusion, especially for a young quarterback. So how does Love handle those type of pressures? We asked Jordan Love about that earlier this week. He said that the offense itself has gone through in their practices going up against schemed up pressures. He said that the offensive line, both in practice and in the preseason games against schemed up pressures, has handled it very well. And this is something that not only the Bears are going to do to Green Bay, but I expect a lot of defenses to do. Stunts, blitzes, late movement in the secondary. Again, just to cause chaos and confusion for a first-time starting quarterback, for a young quarterback with inexperienced pass catchers. Now, in addition to the offensive line holding up well this summer, again, against those schemed-up pressures, Jordan Love has shown very, very good pocket awareness and escapability. I think we really saw that in the Seattle game. The Seattle secondary did a good job in coverage, so there wasn't always somewhere for Love to go with the ball. The offensive line also held up well against the pass rush, but eventually you can only hold that for so long. And Love always seemed to know, he had that internal clock running of how much time he had in the pocket, when he had to move, how he had to escape, and it wasn't as if his first instinct in those instances was to take off running. It was to buy time. He was still looking downfield, trying to push the ball through the passing game. So I thought that was a very encouraging aspect of it. And again, the offensive line, they held up really well. During the first two preseason games, Love had 19 dropbacks. He was only pressured on 2 of those, wasn't hit, wasn't sacked in either, didn't take any quarterback hits, any sacks against the Seattle game either. So look for that aspect of it, though. The Bears are going to do a lot of that late snap movement to try to scheme up pressures to really get after Love. And also, going back to the receiver situation, if the Packers are without Dobbs and or Watson, look for the Bears to crowd the line of scrimmage. They're going to want to take away the run game. They're going to want to take away the quick passing game and make Love beat them with his arm and make him make downfield throws, make those intermediate throws, not just give him those easy completions in space where guys can make plays after the catch. So it's going to be interesting to see, of course, how Love handles this Bears defense and how they might go about trying to defend him and try to get after him in this Packers offense. Packers run game, as I've alluded to, as I've mentioned on previous videos, going to be a really, really important aspect, not just in this game, but for the season. For one, a sound run game to lean on is going to keep the Packers offense ahead of the sticks. And being ahead of the sticks means you're not in second and third and long situations, and you're not in predictable passing situations where the defense can pin its ears back. The secondary can be more aggressive in their coverage, opportunities to make plays on the ball. So the run game and staying ahead of the sticks is going to be very, very important for Green Bay. And again, that might be something that Chicago absolutely tries to take away by playing with loaded boxes. But this is also a Bears defense that wasn't very good against the run last season either. They ranked 27th in yards per carry allowed in 2022. They ranked 29th against the run in DVOA. Now, they did make additions this offseason, and they added Andrew Billings in the middle, DeMarcus Ware, Yannick Ngakoue at edge, TJ Edwards at linebacker. But still, this likely isn't going to be a defense that goes from being one of the worst at defending the run to one of the best either. They're probably, to a degree, still going to be susceptible against it. And so the Packers should really try to attack it. Again, they need a sound run game to lean on. They can't be putting Jordan Love in this inexperienced pass catchers in predictable passing situations. But also, in previous years, this has been an aspect of the Bears defense that opposing offenses have been able to attack. And we saw that last season in the Packers when they were playing them. There were only 6 games last year where the Packers rushed the ball 30 times. Both of them, or 2 of the 6, I should say, came in both their matchups against Chicago. In Week 2, Aaron Jones averaged 8.8 yards per carry against the Bears. In Week 13, A.J. Dillon averaged 5.2 yards per carry against the Bears. So it's a new season. There's new personnel on both sides of the ball, but I still expect the Packers' run game to be a big part of their game plan in Chicago. And with that success on the ground, there's the benefits that were just mentioned, the keeping out of predictable passing situations, taking advantage of a potential weak spot on this Bears defense. But it's going to set up play action. It's going to open up the passing game. The Bears already run a ton of cover 1, cover 2 coverages, and that's where the Packers took a ton of their deep shots on last season. So find success on the ground to set up the shot play against those coverages that the Packers, again, found success going up against last season with those downfield throws. Other side of the ball, sticking with the run game again, obviously a big theme within this game. The Packers' run defense that I've talked about on here is me being impressed with how they've played this summer. They're going to be put to the test going against this Bears offense. There's obviously Justin Fields, had nearly 1,200 rushing yards on his own last season. At running back, the Bears have Khalil Herbert, led the NFL or finished second in the NFL with 5.7 yards per carry in 2022. They just drafted Roschon Johnson out of Texas in the 4th round. Matt LaFleur said they know the Bears are going to run the ball. So can this Packers team limit them and put the ball in Justin Fields' hands and say, go beat us with your arm? And it's a similar concept on this side of the ball as is for the Packers on offense. If Green Bay can slow the Chicago run game, put Fields in the Bears offense in 2nd and 8s, 3rd and 7s, predictable passing situations, the strength of this defense, the pass rush, the playmakers at cornerback are now in position to be aggressive, to go get the ball, and to go get the quarterback. So it's going to be a big component of this Packers defense, and being able to contain Justin Fields, the edge rushers. They're going to have to strike that balance of getting after the quarterback, but also making sure Justin Fields does not get outside. I don't think that the Packers are going to use a quarterback spy against Fields. I think that the linebackers, they're going to do a lot of drop zone where they're dropping back, but their eyes are still on Fields so they can keep locked on him. And Joe Barry said, it's going to take all 11 guys to the ball. So I think that that's going to be what the emphasis is: swarm tackling, getting everyone to the ball carrier as quickly as possible versus strictly just having a quarterback spy. Lastly, I'm really curious to see if this defense is going to be more aggressive. All signs from training camp, from the preseason games, point to what's going to be a more aggressive unit. Now, does that mean they're going to be playing press coverage, man coverage every single down? Does that mean they're going to be sending a blitzer every single down? No, of course not. But are they making changes? Are they doing things differently? Are they trying to be the ones who are dictating rather than allowing the offense to do the dictating? And there's been a lot of signs at all 3 levels of this defense that those type of changes are coming. We talked to Kenny Clark on Monday, and he said this is going to be a different run defense than what we've seen in the past. Of course, he wasn't going to give any sort of clues, but he told us watch the film the following week to see what those differences are. And looking back at how training camp and the preseason unfolded, a few of those items that I think are going to be different is, one, I've talked about on here, just the overall speed of the interior defensive line. They look so much faster. They have a group that focuses on penetrating gaps to create that push rather than just trying to eat up space. We're going to see TJ Slayton more in the middle, which means more defensive end snaps for Kenny Clark. That means more one-on-one opportunities for him. And in the preseason games, we've seen a lot more post-snap movement with stunts from the interior defensive line as well as the edge rushers, especially Lucas Van Ness. They are really running a lot of stunts with him. At the linebacker level, we've seen a lot more blitzes, both in training camp and the preseason. This wasn't a few day. It's not as if these blitzes were taking place over just a few days of practices, like they were going through a certain install. They were blitzing throughout, from the beginning of training camp to the end. And I asked Quay Walker about it. I said, "Are you guys blitzing more?" And he said that, yeah, they are. They're blitzing a whole lot more compared to this time a season ago. So again, something to keep our eyes on. At the cornerback position, we're seeing the cornerbacks challenging the receivers more at the line of scrimmage. Jaire Alexander said he's been working with new cornerbacks coach Greg Williams on his spacing, because Jaire said he has a tendency to leave too much space between him and the receiver at the snap. So again, there's all these signs that hopefully show that those type of changes are coming and that this is the type of defense that we're going to see on the field. Now, again, as I say that, I can hear a collective groan saying, "We'll see it, we'll believe it when we see it." And I get it. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we got to see this group take those changes into the regular season and execute on those changes if we're going to see an improved defense this season. But I am very curious to see if and how much of what we saw over the summer in that capacity does translate over to the regular season. So there you have it. Those are my big items to keep my eyes on that I'll be watching for, that I've written about during the Packers game as it unfolds on Sunday. As always, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Hit like on the video, hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. I greatly appreciate it. You can follow me on Twitter at Paul_Brettel, and you can find all my work over at Packers Wire. So until next time, friends, stay safe, take care, and as always, go Pack, go.